Daenerys is our only chance.
No. There's another.
Killed him. He turned them all.
Holy crap, everybody, we gotta freak out about episode 6, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. Everybody pour one out for Viserion. Let's hope that Bran's able to warg an undead dragon and can somehow turn that against the Night King. But we can mull that over as we go through the video. This is really meant to be like their big North of the Wall episode, even though they had to deal with a couple other plot lines like the stuff happening at Winterfell. There were a couple of good Arya moments. I feel like they're foreshadowing some really interesting stuff for her character. But let's just get into it. So top 10 WTF and book Easter eggs. So number 10, everybody marching north of the wall. I love the way they opened it too with the map table pushing north as they cut to them actually walking in the north. They do a good job with transitions this season. You may be really upset about how they're doing the gross out transitions in earlier episodes with all that literal crap and pus. This was a little more straight out. There wasn't that much comedy in it, but they actually had a lot of funny jokes back and forth as they were talking to each other about their backstories, sort of referencing things that have happened in the past. There was even a lot of earlier dialogue that was given to new characters, like Tormund brings back up Sheila the bear. So the whole funny moment about Gendry just wondering, how do you keep warm north of the wall? Tormund's advice, totally legit. Walking's good, fighting's better, fucking's best. When he says you make do with what you got, he's talking about the bear that he claims to have had sex with, Sheila the bear. So Tormund was great in this episode, and actually after all these scenes that he had, these great character moments and that nod he had with the Hound at the end, it makes me feel like they're going to keep him around for as long as possible, and I'm totally fine with that, because currently as of the end of the episode, he's manning Eastwatch, so I do think that that's where the Night King is going to try and break through the wall, so a bunch of them are going to die there, but I think those will mostly be red shirts, so crossing my fingers for Tormund. But the other really cool Mance Rayder line that Tormund had, you may have remembered, is how many people had to die for his pride. That was something that was said to Mance Rayder way back during Season 4 around Watchers on the Wall, that big battle. How many of these people have to die for your pride? Because at the time, he refused to bend the knee in the same way that Jon Snow is doing the exact same thing with Daenerys, refusing to bend the knee. So in addition to all that good fortune in the wars to come talk, people were like, oh my god, does this mean that Jon Snow's going to die? Because every character that has said that has then gone on to a swift death shortly thereafter. So I was kind of disappointed with the amount of people they did not kill in this episode, but there was a lot of mirroring for the Battle of the Bastards episode where Jon Snow pushes up through the body, so he's sort of coming back to life. So metaphorically, Jon Snow is dying, but not literally dying. Love Tormund's line about gingers with the Hound, just trying to work his blood up a little bit. We're both kissed by fire, just like your face there. And he sort of tells him about what happened to him without directly referencing the mountain. So hopefully we'll follow up with that in episode 7. I'm not expecting legit Clegane Bowl, but they will both be in proximity to each other next week. Jon Snow and Jorah's conversation was really good. He tries to give him Longclaw, but remorseful for the things that he's done. Says, you need to keep this. May it bring you good fortune. It also references children that he might have. So he hasn't been with Ygritte in a long time. Now he's with Daenerys. But a lot of people are like, wait a minute. Daenerys isn't supposed to be able to have children anymore, at least that's what she believes. She also says later in the episode the dragons are her children she'll never have anymore, and she's so sad because one of them has died. There was the Tyrion line where he talks about the succession, so that's a bit of a meta commentary on Jon Snow being officially in the line of succession, but also what comes next after them, like potential children that they might have. So it's just Game of Thrones planting seeds for the idea that they're probably going to have a child at some point during Season 8, or she'll be pregnant. It just depends on how much time passes. Remember, 9 months, Cersei's supposed to be pregnant now, but we don't know how long she's been pregnant, so don't get too worked up over the timeline. They're just setting the stage for Daenerys to probably get pregnant with Jon Snow's child sometime next year. We can talk a little bit more about that later this week. That's probably worth a bonus video just because there's so much backstory about why Daenerys is supposed to be barren right now and the prophecy about her getting pregnant again and her womb quickening. So number 9, Arya and Sansa, the Winterfell plot. This was not my most favorite moment, especially the early scenes too. I feel like the Bag of Faces and them playing the Game of Faces was probably their best scene together, but because Winterfell is a big location, you have Bran, there's a lot of mythology happening there, you also have to service this storyline. So I am totally not down for this manufactured conflict between the two of them. Arya is mad at Sansa because she believes that Sansa's a traitor to their family, but almost everybody else that was part of that situation and knew about the letter, like Maester Luwin, understands that Sansa was forced to write the letter and didn't mean what she said. The problem with this scene is that Arya is supposed to have this superhuman ability to detect when people are lying, and she can't tell that Sansa is not lying when she says that the words of the letter are false. Like, she's like, I didn't mean that, but Arya still believes that she's a traitor. So giant thumbs down for that, but it remains to be seen what it is that brings them together. Remember, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, so something is going to have to bring them together, and Littlefinger's trying to engineer a situation where Sansa is completely dependent upon him for political advice and how to deal with the other Northern Lords, because Sansa's worried that now that Jon Snow's been gone for so long, that they'll all just bolt. But number 8, Tyrion trying to get Daenerys to chill out because they have this big meeting coming with Cersei. Don't do anything rash. Please don't burn everything to the ground. He does give her that little out, like if they actually do try to hurt you, then we burn them to the ground. But like I said, he references the world that they're trying to create, what comes next. And then Daenerys gets really upset at the idea of the succession. We'll talk about that after the war is won. So like I said, just a nod to Jon Snow also being part of the succession and her not really sure what's going to happen between the two of them. Like, she probably hasn't totally figured out what she's going to do after she actually sits on the Iron Throne. She's so worried about the war right now. It is planting more seeds for potential baby between the two of them. So we'll see how that plays out. But number 7, fighting the giant white polar bear, flaming polar bear, triggering the Hound. That was actually a good moment. So anything on fire will trigger the Hound. But I wouldn't get too down on him because that is a giant bear. So even if it weren't flaming, then anybody would probably flip their shit. But the meta thing going on here too is that Tormund had just gotten done talking about doing what you needed to do to keep warm, like having sex, the joke about him having sex with Sheila the bear up north of the wall, and then cut to an actual white polar bear. So I feel like that's the show's way of sort of meta referencing a bunch of previous things that they've done on the show. So the bear is more of like a funny WTF twist, like, oh, this is a giant bear. Oh, it looks like giant animals can be turned into whites too. So it's also foreshadowing for Viserion being turned at the end of the episode. Number 6, the small group of whites in the single White Walker just serves as an explainer for you kill the creator, the creations fall as well. So it just set up for the end of the episode where they're like, kill him, he created them all. So they have the idea now. Now they just need another terrible Tyrion plan. So, I mean, we can make jokes about how terrible everyone's plans have been this season, but at least the seed has been planted now. They kill a White Walker and maybe take down a squadron of whites, but they kill the Night King and the entire army will fall instantly. So that just feels like a big Season 8 moment where somebody sacrifices their life to take him down with either, say, like Arya's Valyrian dagger or some really special weapon, but in doing so, giving up their life, they kill him and end the war. So we can theory craft about that after the season's over, because there's still a whole bunch of stuff left to happen in episode 7. But they send Gendry running back. He is one of the fastest runners I've ever seen, but I'll talk a little bit about the timeline of the episode, because as they run for the island in the middle of the frozen lake, they were standing there in the episode for more than a single day, because you see the sun go down as Gendry reaches the wall, and then it goes from being really dark to them sort of waking up with it being light. So it just lets you know that they were sitting on that island for a day, maybe a little bit more than that. So it does kind of explain how they're able to get a raven to Daenerys, and she makes it all the way back by the end of the episode. But number 5, the Hound just gets really pissed off and starts throwing rocks, misses one. The whites seem intelligent enough to put 2 and 2 together, so we can talk about that later too, because it's like, if they can understand this, then how intelligent are they? Are they just mindless creatures that are filled by the will of the White Walkers that created them? But shit is on, and they start to fight them off, but you get this sense, it's very Battle of the Bastards-esque, where they get surrounded just like Jon Snow's group was during that episode. And I love this wide shot because it's just like the sea of ants washing over them until Daenerys, preceded by jets of flame, comes to save them. So like I said, Battle of the Bastards, it's a very Knights of the Vale twist type moment, like, oh, you think all is lost, even though we know that Jon Snow's probably not going to die. So we can argue in the comments about which battle this season featuring dragons was the best, like Daenerys versus Jaime or Daenerys versus the Army of the Dead. I feel like this moment is actually meant to be more meaningful for the characters, in the other Jamie episode is meant to be like a bigger action set piece. So I do think, if you're just talking about spectacle, then the Jamie episode is probably better. But this episode with Viserion dying is way more gut-wrenching. So number 4, back to Winterfell. Sansa, upset about the Northern Lords potentially leaving, finds Arya's bag of faces, and Arya makes like she's going to kill her and wear her face. I feel like that's the whole point of the scene. They want to make you wonder about that. Even though I think that's complete garbage, there's no way that Arya is going to kill Sansa, but I did like the way they brought back the game of faces, and the sheer fact that there is a literal bag of faces that they introduced in the episode is probably a hat tip to Arya continuing to wear different faces in Season 8. So we can all wonder and theorycraft about whose faces she'll wear. I would love for her to kill Littlefinger in the finale potentially, and then wear his face through Season 8. That would be a great way to keep Aidan Gillen around, because he's a great actor. They haven't been doing a lot of really interesting stuff with his character this season, but Arya wearing his face, that would be a lot of fun. And of course, back to the big battle. Number 3, the Night King javelins Viserion down, who dies, sinks to the bottom of the lake. Everybody's freaking out. Jon Snow also goes down, trying to help them get away. So after Benjen sacrifices himself to allow him to get away, just almost a throwaway moment in how quick it is. Like, where's Benjen been? Has he been watching the battle this whole time? Either way, I think it's the show's way of telling us that, hey, this is our last Benjen moment. He's not coming back after this. But number 2, on the boat back, Daenerys sees Jon Snow's scars, and I think it crystallizes her opinion of him in how he's willing to sacrifice himself for his people, his level of commitment. They share a very tender moment. She talks about her dead children. I'll never have another. He officially bends the knee, even though he's still lying in bed, and then she sort of takes off to leave him to recover. It gets a little awkward between the two of them, but they just want to let you know that yes, there's a thing happening between them here. And then, of course, number 1, we have to talk about the Night King raising Viserion as his undead mount. It's going to be great. There's so many questions that I've seen about this. 1, where did he get those chains from? 2, will Viserion, now that he's undead with the blue eye, will he breathe blue fire? And 3, can Bran warg a dragon who is also undead? My initial takeaway on the chains is that those are taken from Hardhome. They're just big boat chains used to drag ships out of the water, so that's probably where they came from. And it would be really cool to see Viserion breathe blue fire. It'd be a really easy way to differentiate him visually on screen when all the dragons are fighting each other in the air during Season 8, which I think is mutually assured at this point. The 3 heads of the dragon, one of them will be the Night King now. And as for Bran warging a dragon, I do think it's possible. I think he's getting powerful enough to do that. But I think the best we can hope for right now is just that Bran is able to somehow mess with the Night King's connection with Viserion. So during a battle, he's able to distract him so that Jon and Daenerys riding the other dragons can somehow take him down. So mission 1 now is getting the Night King back on the ground. And in order to do that, you have to take down undead Viserion. But let me know in the comments, what did you guys think of the episode? I feel like there were a bunch of mythology twists, and I do like the idea of an undead dragon. A lot of great ideas, even though their plan was absolute crap. Like, Jon is like, I'm so sorry about this. We should have never gone. Yes, that is correct. You should have never gone. There's much easier ways to convince Cersei about a White Walker. They probably would have been better off taking Thoros south of the wall and using him as the example that whites exist. Like, look, here, this is a person that you probably met in King's Landing, Cersei. He is now undead and running around trying to bite everyone's hands off. And another book Easter egg is when the Hound says, Beric, you better be careful, you're on your last life. In the books, he's on his 6th life. Thoros goes down, so he has to use his life to give life to Lady Stoneheart. He gives her the kiss of life. So me and a lot of other people were wondering if he was going to do that for Jon Snow. But obviously they opted not to kill anybody except for Thoros in the episode. So I feel like that's probably going to be one of the biggest complaints. Like, now is the time where it is okay to start killing your main characters. We're in the final episodes. But I'll post my finale trailer video next, then new Rick and Morty. I'll say congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, Reese Clark. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. While you wait for everything, you can click here to learn about Rhaegar Targaryen, and you can click here for my episode 5 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.